Imagine waking up in the dead of night to the sound of frantic church bells and neighbors yelling. Smoke is filling the air, the sky is orange, and the heat presses through your windows. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly how thousands of Londoners felt on September 2nd, 1666, when the Great Fire of London began. Now, this wasn't just another fire, it was the disaster that tore through the city and reshaped it forever. And the scariest part? It all started in the most ordinary place, a bakery. London in the 1600s was basically built to burn. Streets were narrow and crooked, many houses were timber framed, packed close together, sometimes leaning so far into the street they nearly touched across the top. Most roofs were wooden, and open flames were just part of daily life. Candles for light, hearths for heating, ovens for baking. In fact, some streets were so tight you could probably shake hands with your neighbor through the window. And these weren't small neighborhoods. We're talking about tens of thousands of homes crammed together in the city walls. Now, to make things worse, the summer of 1666 had been extremely dry. The wells were running low, water was scarce, and the whole city was basically a giant pile of kindling. I'm pretty sure London at that moment was one careless spark away from disaster. That spark came from Thomas Farriner's bakery on Pudding Lane just after midnight. Embers from the oven likely ignited nearby firewood. Farriner and his family escaped, climbing through an upstairs window, but their maid was trapped and became the first recorded victim. Within minutes, flames leapt from roof to roof. By dawn, an entire block was blazing. Eyewitness Samuel Pepys describes watching the flames spread like a wave, carried west by a strong wind. He later wrote the fire made the night as bright as day, and that the whole city looked like one giant torch. Another diarist, John Evelyn, noted the horrifying, quote, noise and cracking and thunder of the impetuous flames, which he said could be heard across the city. Imagine standing there, watching your entire skyline vanish into smoke. Now, why did it spread so fast? Several things made the fire unstoppable. First, the buildings were tightly packed, like we said, mostly made of wood. Second, many warehouses along the Thames stored flammable goods like tar, oil, and brandy. And when those caught on fire, the explosions pushed flames even further. Some barrels literally blew apart, showering burning liquid across cobblestones. Third, London had no professional fire brigade. The best people could do was pass buckets of water, use hand pumps, or pull down houses with firehooks. In fact, demolishing houses was the main strategy. But the Lord Mayor, Sir Thomas Bloodworth, hesitated. He famously said, quote, "A woman might piss it out," when asked to authorize demolitions early on. He feared angry property owners would sue if he gave the order too soon. That delay was fatal. By the time officials acted, the fire was already out of control. I'm pretty sure those lost hours sealed London's fate. Imagine being one of the 350,000 people living in London at that time. You wake up to choking smoke, grab what you can, and rush into the streets. People loaded carts, carried bundles on their backs, or pushed boats into Thames. Families were separated in the chaos. The wealthy tried to save valuables, the poor just ran. Some even buried belongings in gardens hoping to return later. Pepys buried wine and Parmesan cheese in his backyard to keep them safe. The heat was so intense that people reported hearing tiles explode and seeing molten lead being poured down the streets. By Monday, whole neighborhoods were gone. Panic spread faster than fire itself. Rumors flew that the foreigners had started it, and angry mobs attacked anyone who looked suspicious. The city wasn't just burning, it was unraveling. Fear of invasion and rebellion now mixed with the fear of flames themselves. The fire burned for 4 terrifying days. Sunday, September 2nd, it started in Pudding Lane and spread to the surrounding parish. Monday, September the 3rd, the wind pushed it into Cheapside, London's main market street. Warehouses and churches collapsed. Thousands fled towards the river. On Thursday, September the 4th, which would be day 3, flames reached St. Paul's Cathedral. Many thought the great stone church would survive, but the wooden scaffolding left for repairs caught fire, and soon the cathedral was gone. The lead roof melted and flowed like rivers through the streets. Eyewitnesses said it looked like a volcano erupting in the heart of London. Wednesday, September 5th, day 4. The winds finally calmed. With fewer sparks jumping across streets, fire breaks and demolition slowed the blaze. When it finally died down, one of the largest cities in Europe had been gutted. For 4 nights, Londoners didn't just lose houses, they lost entire parishes. Entire histories reduced to ash. Local officials froze, but King Charles II took action. He personally ordered demolitions, even using gunpowder to blow up buildings and create fire breaks. Soldiers joined ordinary citizens to tear down homes before the flames reached them. Without those drastic measures, the fire might have lasted weeks instead of days. I'm pretty sure it was one of those rare moments when a king rolling up his sleeves saved a city from complete ruin. Imagine your monarch out in the smoke, shouting orders and covered in soot. It left a strong impression that leadership mattered when the city most needed it. When the flames finally died, the numbers were staggering. 13,000 houses gone, 87 parish churches destroyed, St. Paul's Cathedral collapsed, the homes of thousands of merchants, artisans, and shopkeepers reduced to ash. Around 70,000 Londoners were left homeless. That was about 1/6 of the city's population. The official death toll was surprisingly low, fewer than 10. But most historians believe the real number was much higher. Records of the poor often weren't kept, and with temperatures hot enough to melt stone, many bodies may have been cremated completely. The psychological toll was massive. Survivors described the city as a wasteland of smoking ruins with nothing but chimneys standing like tombstones. Trade collapsed and thousands fled the city entirely, and for months afterwards, London was little more than just a refugee camp. After the fire, London faced the challenge of rebuilding. Refugee camps sprang up in fields around the city. Food prices soared and thousands struggled just to survive. But out of the ashes came change. Parliament quickly passed new laws, houses must be built from brick or stone, streets were widened, and the fire safety improved. For the first time, organized fire insurance became available. The famous architect Christopher Wren redesigned St. Paul's Cathedral and laid out ambitious plans for a new London. Although most of his grand designs weren't realized, the fire did transform the city. The medieval maze of wooden houses were replaced by sturdier, more modern streets. And slowly, life returned. Merchants reopened shops, children played in the rebuilt streets, and London grew again, scarred, but stronger. Like any disaster, the fire sparked myths and finger-pointing. Foreigners were blamed, Catholics accused, and even wild conspiracies spread. A Frenchman named Robert Hubert confessed to starting it, though he almost certainly couldn't have. He was executed anyways. A grim reminder of how fear can twist justice. Others saw the fire as a divine punishment. Preachers said God was angry at London's sins, but as time passed, people began to see the fire differently, not just as destruction, but as a turning point. I'm pretty sure it taught Londoners that disasters, as terrible as they are, can also be a moment of rebirth. The fire cleared the way for a stronger, safer, and ultimately more resilient city. The Great Fire became more than a tragedy. It became a lesson etched into London's DNA. The Great Fire of London remains one of the most famous disasters in history. It destroyed nearly everything in its path, but it also reshaped London into the city we know today. If you ever stand by the monument of Pudding Lane, where it all began, you might still imagine the fear and chaos of those 4 days. But you might also imagine the resilience that followed, the determination to rebuild brick by brick. And I'm pretty sure their story is one worth remembering. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment. And as always, thanks for sticking around. Peace.